part of the process of doing the pre-run checklist that I have for my trucks, I've discovered something else that isn't quite right on this vehicle, and it's another reason that motors burn out sooner than they should. What you'll see is this is my first C10 that I bought, and when I move the side wheel, the other wheel moves too, because it's free moving and can move easily. See how that, you move one and they'll bounce. If you let go, they'll sort of bounce back. See? And that's how they should be. There's no binding there. Now if I go to this one, you don't see any of that. These wheels are too tight. If I move it, this one is probably fine, because this one can bounce back a bit. See that? This side is bound, and it's not bound very hard, but it's enough. When you have four wheels that are bound up a little bit, that's not good. So what I'm going to do, loosen that a little bit. I'm going to loosen the other one just a tiny bit too. Alright, see how I move one and, oh, get that better. But you get what I'm doing. I'm just making sure that both of these can move freely if they're disturbed and attempted to move. And there is some amount of freedom that will happen once the bearings seat with each other and loosen up a bit. But you can go a long way with this before you actually make the wheel loose. There we go. So I'm getting bounce on it now. It's bouncing back. And front side's the same way. But make sure you get some bounce. I mean, an older worn-in truck with everything seated, plus the heavier weights in the wheels, it's going to move a little better. But that's what you're looking for. There it is. When you move one wheel, the other wheel moves with it. This one needs to be loosened just a little more. Alright, this is a short video. A lot of you have seen the RC4WD Drive competition wheels, and they're cool, but they're kind of a pain in the butt to mount, because you have this little tiny socket that has to go over these small little microscopic bolt heads when you put them together, and it's just a pain in the butt. I hate these wheels, but a lot of people like them, and one of the things that I don't like about them is they don't have a hex on the back. And what I've done here is you can see a slot that I cut in there, and the reason I did that is the factory slot is not wide enough to be able to go over the small little pin here on the side. See that metal piece that goes through the middle on the axle that actually gives the wheel its drive? That silver part right there. Sorry about my hands, they're all chewed up right now. I've been working. There's two ways to mount these. You can either make your own slot that is wide enough to accommodate that pin, which I've done. It works really well, and you never see it once it's mounted because it's on the back side. The other way is to get these little Millstone weights that are slotted to go over the first of all, you take the hex off that comes with the car, and that's how you mount a standard wheel. So it's got the hex in there. Anyway, these take the place of the hex, and what you do is you just put these on, and then they have that little bump out there. I'll try to get this to focus on it. But there's little prongs that stick out and lock into the wheel, and it does make it considerably wider. And when you make it an axle this much wider, you're going to start losing some diff clearance, and also it's not going to go through the narrow places if your crawler, of course, has more narrow spots. And to compensate for the extra thickness, they do send these bolts right here that have a long sleeve that's threaded that reach down through the it reaches down through the wheel, through the center. I had to actually drill it out because the little bolt sleeves did not fit through, but it requires that in order to be able to reach the threads on the axle. So these are about, I don't know, probably $42 if I remember right. And these were expensive wheels. They're about 65 bucks, I believe. And they're not even that good. A lot of people swear by them. I don't care for them. But then again, they weren't really made for the SCX24. They predated it. So this is a workaround, this piece here, that adapts the two non-compatible things to make them work together. The other thing is you can just cut a slot, and I'll show you something with that slot. They'll go on nice, and you just put the nut back on, and it will line up properly. Make sure that's right. And it's going to be a little wobbly at first. That will go away when you tighten the lug nut onto it. And I'm going to use standard lug nuts since I'm not using the Millstone spacer. Okay, I have, you can see that I get the wheels both bounce, and they're not overly tightened. The difference is the wheel is being held on between the pin and the axle. It's not seated on anything, but it's fine. They're fairly true when they rotate, and doesn't really matter anyway. So that's the RC 4-wheel drive comp wheels. And RC 4-wheel drive makes a lot of really good stuff. I'll show you something else that can do the same thing for a lot less money. So what I just showed you with the RC 4-wheel drive comp wheels and the Millstone spacers, you're going to be into it for about $110, and it's stupid for a crawler this big. Basically, you're going to double the money you've spent on it just by putting wheels on it. Or for 25 bucks, you can get these RC 4-wheel drive stamped steel rims, and these are good. I like them. They're kind of hard to put together, but once they're together, they're fine. And if you want extra spacing, just put the little hub here on the other side. A lot of people do that, and it will greatly extend the width and basically do the same thing as these. Just because instead of mounting it on the inside of the wheel dish, you're going to mount it on the outside. It's much flatter. And if you mount that here on this side, it gives you quite a bit of wheel width. But $24.99 as opposed to about $110. That makes no sense to do anything else. And if you do want to have standard width, these RC 4-wheel drive wheels work just fine for it. They're not sponsoring me, that's why I feel like I can say what I want about it, but they do make good products, and these just were never meant to go on an SCX24, but we made them work. That's part of the hobby, is you don't do it unless you're willing to work on stuff. So hope it helps. That's all I got for tonight. I know I said that's all for tonight, but I'm going to give you a little bit of bonus footage. The deadbolt now has the RC 4-wheel drive comp wheels on it, And I've lined them up on this side, but when you come to this side, they are slightly wider than the trail wheels that I have on here. And every wheel is going to have a little bit different offset, but it is a little bit wider, but I don't think that's detrimental. If it gets much wider than that, then you start losing diff clearance, a little bit of width, and that's again without the Millstone spacers. Will actually help your center of gravity a little bit for side hilling, but it's not going to give up so much that you are giving away a lot of track width. So if all you do is side hilling, put these on. They're going to give you a wider base, more stability. But if you're doing obstacles, then you want that differential to have as much clearance as possible. That's all for tonight.